Fallout 4 has a lot of different weapons and a lot of different ammo types. But what if you ignored all those and you wanted to cosplay as a bare knuckle boxing pro champion? Can you beat Fallout 4 using only the fists that Daddy Howard blessed me with? I started by playing God and creating the perfect creation, a creature that demands fear from his enemies and respect from his peers. There was a knock at the door from a man wearing a poorly attempted banana cosplay, and I chose to use my special stats. I chose to go with 7 for strength because everyone knows the bigger you are, the harder you punch. Perception of 2, endurance of 6 for health and action point reasons. I put charisma at 1 because I'm scared to talk to people, intelligence of 4 because although I'm not good at math, I can figure out that the circle does in fact go in the square hole. Lastly, agility and luck at 4 just to smooth things out. And I named myself Kid Fisto. Shortly after, everyone decided to go for a neighborhood run up the hill, and I made my way down into the vault. In the vault, I tried to include myself into a couple's conversation but was ignored, got frozen, then woke up seeing a mysterious Baldy and his friends steal my child and kill my wife. And then, I awoke and I was free. I took out a few rad roaches when I hit my first issue with this playthrough. I accidentally picked up the 10mm pistol from the overseer's desk. I don't have a Pip-Boy yet, which means I can't unequip this pistol, which means I can't attack anything. This led me to try to parkour over some roaches to get to the Pip-Boy at the entrance of the vault. For some sick reason only Daddy Howard knows, you can't pick it up while in combat or being attacked. So, I was forced to hide away. I tried to close the door to keep these guys out, but these little guys are persistent and found another way to me. I looped them around and finally closed all the doors I could on them and hit again, and then finally I was able to grab my Pip-Boy. 30 minutes in, and this is how it's going. I tried going to get my revenge after putting away my pistol, but they all ran off to their mommies. The vault door was finally opened, I reassigned some skill points, and I was on my way. The first thing I did was to go visit Codsworth, who was still hanging around the old crib. Got an extra special point and put it into strength for a total of 9 and started scrapping things so I could boost my starting level by a few points using the Idiot Savant perk. I couldn't remember where the fence post was located in the menu, found it, and began spamming posts, and after enough I leveled up and was able to unlock the Idiot Savant perk. If you aren't familiar, Idiot Savant gives random XP whenever XP is earned and has been proven to be one of the fastest ways to level up quickly. I then put a point into Iron Fist for 40% more damage, a point into Medic so Stimpaks can heal more, and the last was put into damage resistance. I saw a rad roach who looked like he needed a smackdown and left his body at the entrance to Sanctuary to let his friends know they aren't welcome here. Went back to Codsworth and we cleared out the bugs to the neighborhood houses. Then I looted said houses for goodies and began making my way to Concord. Along the way, I made a friend and finally made it to the city where I heard a scuffle going on. I intervened, stole their goodies, and Preston tried telling me what to do, where he was promptly ignored, and I kept looting like the loot goblin that I am. I decided I was satisfied with what I had gathered and made my way into the Museum of Freedom. I immediately went to steal the fusion core because I heard the raiders were scared of the dark, and then went on to bully the bullies. I met Preston officially, and he asked for my help and I agreed, so I made my way onto the roof. There, I discovered you didn't even need the power armor to take off the minigun, and used the power armor to get off the roof without taking any damage. Then, after I landed, I exited and continued my bullying rampage. That's when the big ugly showed up that I had forgotten about. I gave him my best 1-2 combination, but it hardly did any damage at all, and he one-shotted me every single time. It was at this moment that I decided I would use power armor because it's my video, and technically I was still fighting unarmed because I wasn't using any weapons, just armor. Sturgis lied because the armor wasn't pristine, but I rushed towards Big Lizzo anyways, full speed ahead, ready for round 2. I killed it, then exited my power armor to finish off the last 2 raiders. In the time it took to kill and loot his friend, the last raider stole my power armor from where I had left it on the street and killed me. So, after respawning, I went back to fight Big Lizzo again, and in the middle of the battle, she flexed her new limited edition Fortnite emote to taunt me. It didn't work, and once again, she was defeated. I stayed in my power armor this time and finished off the remaining stragglers. I told Preston and his squad to hit the road and put a point into Charisma to get the Lone Wanderer perk since Dogmeat doesn't count as a companion. I then started making my way to Diamond City where I came across Trash Can Carla role-playing as a piece of trash littering the street. I then did some trading for Stimpaks and Radaway and got rid of all the items I accumulated in my inventory. I then came across Trudy and Wolfgang having a heated discussion. I told Wolfgang I would help him, and then immediately went and talked to Trudy and told her I would help her also. Then the shooting suddenly erupted. So, being a man of my word, I killed everyone in order to teach them the lesson of stranger danger. I put Trudy and her son in the front of the diner for everyone passing by to learn the same lesson. I continued on, only to get distracted trying to get a Nuka-Cola Quantum glowing just out of reach. Got it, and went to the Corvega assembly plant to gain some easy XP. I beat up the ruffians inside and show them why I'm still the undefeated champ. Put another point into charisma, and after getting lost, I finally found the big bad. The turrets proved to be more annoying than anything, and I finally defeated Jared. I then got rid of all of his friends on the outside, and continued into Lexington. I made it to the Cambridge police station and helped Buzz Lightyear evict the senior citizens wandering the streets unsupervised, and I prepared to go on an adventure. By prepare, I mean I ransacked their outpost for everything I could get my grubby little hands on. We made our way to ArcJet Systems, turned some tin men into tin foil, and made it to the engine core. Before turning on the jet engine, I thought I could let Dance take out a bunch of synths so I could have a bunch of loot, but they eventually got the better of him, and I got impatient. So with Dance taking a breather, I activated the engine and killed the remaining enemies. I looted all the goodies from Buzz's hard-fought battle, defeated more enemies, got the deep-range transmitter, and left ArcJet. Continuing on my way to Diamond City, I fought some super mutants, lost one of their bodies in a bush, fought some more super mutants duking it out with the Diamond City security, and lied to the gate security with Piper to get them to open the gate. I ignored the mayor and Piper to get to the market quicker, but Piper didn't like that and hijacked my screen for her rant. I bought some more medical supplies, went to Nick, but he wasn't home, and was sent out to find him. I made it to Park Street Station, and it turns out the Triggermen and their submachine guns can do some good damage to me. I fought my way through the subway to an old uncompleted vault. Found out Dino was holding Nick hostage. Dino tried to scurry away, but I beat him to the punch, and then I released Nick. We fought our way out until we met Skinny Malone waiting for us with some thugs and his wifey at the exit of the vault. I tried to defuse the situation, but apparently hearing a sound thought from a Neanderthal just sounds like a sound a Neanderthal makes. He then attacked. We took out his sweetums, and I hit him with a hook so hard his head flew off his body. I added some weapons to my collection, left the area, and told Nicky I would meet him at his office in Diamond City later. I then traveled to Sanctuary, saw Preston, and completed the quest When Freedom Calls, traded with TCC again, and finally made it to Nick's place of business. He asked me some personal questions, told me Kellogg's Frosted Flakes stole my kid, and we went to break into his house. I couldn't get in, so I made my way to the mayor's office, where he was a scumbag about giving me a key, even after trying to bribe him. So I did the next best thing, and I bribed his secretary. After checking out the house, Nick and I used Dogmeat to track the sweet scent of Frosted Flakes across the Commonwealth. We ran into a stunned Yao Guai, and it was here that I figured out Nick was basically useless in a fight. Continued on, ran into another stunned Yao Guai, where Nick didn't really help at all, again, and we finally made it to Fort Hagen. I told Nick to take a hike, got rid of the turrets atop of the building, and made my way inside. By this time, the armor and perks I had started to make the Institute laser pistols tickle, and I fought my way through tin man after tin man. I got lost for a good 5 minutes inside, and I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go to get to my minimap marker. Dogmeat's asthma kept acting up mid-fights, and I finally found where I was supposed to go. I heard a voice talking to me from beyond the beyond, and finally found Kellogg. I took some performance-enhancing drugs to help. Kellogg tried to hide with a stealth boy, but my keen eyes followed his every move. I killed him, honestly easier than I was expecting to, and stole all his belongings and left him naked on the floor like he deserved. We watched the Brotherhood of Steel enter the Commonwealth, and I went back to Sanctuary. Mr. Long Dong wanted to speak, but I accidentally ignored him. Sturgis told me they were tired of sleeping on the floor, and I scraped together some stuff to make the cheapest beds I could for these rapscallions that invaded my home. After that, I went to go see Nick, interrupted a conversation between him and Piper gossiping about me. Then Nick suggested we travel to Good Neighbor for help. So that was our next stop. Along the way, I ran into Sonic and his friends who learned how to phase in and out of solid metal, and by watching them, I too learned this ability. I found myself in front of Hoover's Comics and wandered inside to get the Grognak the Barbarian costume for added strength points. I also thought it would help with an unarmed melee attack bonus, but it turns out I was wrong about that, as I usually am. Upon making it to Good Neighbor, Nick was still trying to shoot someone through a wall, and I went to go talk to Hancock, since nobody wanted to talk to me. Then, Nick decided he would steal the limelight and do a verbal drive-by. Hancock handles his business. I walked down memory lane in another person's memory, and I told Nick to hit the road. I tried talking to Piper to get the quest done for talking to her, but she was being needy, so I was off to the police station to go with Buzz up to his mothership. We took the scenic route on a vertibird, and eventually arrived at the Pridwin. This ride was really boring though, since I couldn't attack anything with the minigun, so I resorted to trying to shoot down my own helicopter. Once aboard, Captain Boring talked about something while Dogmeat moonwalked off to the side. I was forced to listen to Elder Maxon ramble on about the Institute, met everyone on the ship, then hopped on a vertibird to Fort Strong. only to realize the only way the helicopter will land is if I take out all the super mutants on the ground with the minigun from the air, but I can't. This led to the helicopter being destroyed. I pretended I had drowned in the water once the helicopter blew up, only to actually be killed by a giant rock being thrown at me from an oversized toddler. I said no thank you, got my suit of power armor, and promptly left for Diamond City, since it was the closest fast travel location to the glowing sea, and I'd rather do that. Just outside of Diamond City, I met Gene, who was selling his puppy. He didn't really seem like he wanted to, but I tossed 250 caps his way and became the owner of a second dog. I wondered if I could get my money back, so I made a save and gave him the beatdown of the century. My newly acquired pupper immediately turned hostile against me, and I immediately reloaded a save and continued on my way. I discovered Scrap Palace right around the time a Brotherhood of Steel vertibird was dropping off knights who were going to cleanse the area. Dogmeat's asthma attack nearly got both him and I killed when the Brotherhood of Steel pilot crash landed next to us and a body was flung out of the cockpit at Mach Jesus. Oh well, it happens. We made it to the edge of the glowing sea and proceeded onward to find some guy known as Virgil. I talked to the crazies in the toxic swamp, and they told me that he was living in a cave not far from them. I made it to his cave with only a small scratch from the Deathclaw living outside of Virgil's cave. I entered and saw the Timu Hulk in the flesh. He told me how I had to microwave myself into the Institute and pointed me to the next destination. I ignored his directions and immediately went to Green Tech Genetics. This part wasn't as bad as I initially thought at first. The turrets were still really annoying, but the gunners themselves didn't take too many hits to take down, but they did do some good damage if I wasn't careful. After fighting my way through, I came across my arch nemesis and the worst part of this game: hacking. I don't know what it is, but I cannot stand hacking in this game, and usually spam the first 3 options I can choose and back out before locking myself out of the computer, and just keep doing this until by sheer luck I guess the right password and unlock the terminal. I unlocked it, and then I was gunned down on the bridge when I stepped on a cryomine and couldn't get my stim pack off in time to heal. I had to fight my way through a few gunners again, because my last save was a little ways back, and I once again faced my biggest op for round 2. I got it on my second guess, but it was a sore loser, and sent its equally big of a loser friend with a missile launcher to jump me while I tried to run across to safety. I still hadn't saved, so I had to fight again. Made it across, and fought a legendary gunner this time, only to be killed once again by the little cuck boy with the rocket launcher. Luckily, I had made a save a little closer to the terminal and faced off with the hacking wizards one last time. I defeated the gunners on the other side and continued through the building. By this point, I had leveled up Iron Fist another point, which meant my punches could disarm enemies, which was great, until all they would do is block my punches and make it a lot less fun fighting them. I got my revenge on Missile Boy and finally made it up to the big bad Courser himself. The fight was relatively simple. Sometimes, when your enemy is unarmed, they'll do an animation getting ready to punch back, but I was slightly faster and they weren't able to land many punches. I stole his things, I killed the gunner that was sitting on the ground, and rescued the synth being held hostage. I say rescued lightly. This is a Brotherhood playthrough after all, and she said she needed to make it on her own, so I gave her first real challenge of the wasteland and a lesson in whoop ass. Be careful what you ask for, kids. I left the building and decided while I had my power armor, I would march into Fort Strong to clear out the infestation. On my way, I interrupted a robot race, fell through a tiny hole in a bridge somehow, and finally made it to my destination. I slept just outside the fort until 7:35 a.m. to try to catch them off guard, but unfortunately for me, they are early risers. The super mutant Behemoth caught me off guard because I frankly just forgot he was there, and his buddies peppered me with automatic fire. I tried to get in some shots on the Behemoth through a window, but it didn't work so well. So I focused on the little guys, killing one and then retreating behind the wall where the Behemoth couldn't step on me. I popped some drugs and finished off the stragglers until it was just me and the big guy. The window tactic still didn't work, so I decided to take the fight to him. It was going okay until a legendary butcher showed up with his friend and I had to take care of them before finishing off the Behemoth. After killing the small fries, it was back to a 1v1. He destroyed most of my armor, and I almost met the Grim Reaper in the process, so I decided to run away, pick up another set of power armor that I saw earlier left in the guard shack just outside the fort. New armor in hand, I made my way back to finish off what I had started. I finished off the fight with a mean punch to the wiener and cleared out the rest of the inside of the fort. Next, I needed to get the Courser chip analyzed, and the only ones able to do that, apparently, was the robot equivalent of the Underground Railroad. I met them, let Tom do his hacking thing, and I left. I always hated going to the railroad though, because you can't just fast travel into their lair. You have to run through a little maze, and it's just doing too much. I took the chip to Virgil with the decoded information, and Virgil gave me the schematics I needed to get into the Institute. I took the schematics to Ingram and got right to work. I built what I could with the materials I had, but I was missing a military-grade circuit board for the last piece. According to the wiki, I could find some at the robotics disposal ground, and that's exactly what I did. Then, I booked it back to the airport to finish my build. I built the final piece, then ran into another problem. Because I had put no skill points into science, I did not have access to large generators, only the medium-sized ones that put out 5 power each. The problem being that I didn't have enough ceramic to build them, so one trip to Diamond City and a shipment of ceramic later, I had my generators built and the molecular relay was completed. Finally, in the Institute, I met a fake Sean and a bigger Sean. I found Dr. Lee and convinced her to join the Brotherhood again, found Virgil's Fix-It serum, and took it back to him. Then, I traveled back to Ingram at the airport, who showed me her Big Nasty. The Big Nasty being Liberty Prime. I was tasked with helping to fix him by finding a magnet, fought some more super mutants, got the magnet, and created the actuators Liberty Prime needed to move his arms and legs. Next, he needed some ammo for his little backpack, so I hoofed it back to the glowing sea, where Halen gave me a transmitter, and I went off to the big pyramid in the toxic lands to find a nuclear arsenal hidden underground. Just outside the arsenal, I found a child of Adam named Henry guarding what I needed, and after he wouldn't listen to me, I was forced to teach him some manners. All I needed to deal with now was his Assaultron named Adam's Wrath. I've dealt with them before, but thankfully, after one laser shot from his face, he wasn't able to charge up another. I don't know if this is from my attacks, or if this is just supposed to happen, but either way, I didn't care. With the transmitter placed, I fought with one glowing one who was blocking my exit ride, won, and made it to the surface, where I immediately left to the airport to bring Liberty Prime back to his prime time. Maxon called me up to speak to him, where he caught a mean attitude and almost caught some mean hands as a result. In a shocking turn of events nobody saw, I had to track down Dance, who was now considered a synth enemy. Along the way to Dance, I found what looked like one crazy party with a floating chem box, and I arrived at Listening Post Bravo, where I severely underestimated the power of 2 laser turrets. I died, the party moved somewhere else, and I entered the outpost. There was some friendly fire with the Protectrons, and I finally got to speak with Dance. He told me he was proud of me, and I gave him the meanest right hook the world has ever seen. Maximilian was happy with the results of the mission, and Captain Boring told me I needed to wipe out the railroad. I'd like to say they stood a chance, but they didn't. Not against Kid Fisto and all his fisting abilities. Along the way, I found a legendary Brotherhood Knight Sergeant, who I killed to see what he had. It wasn't anything special, so he kind of died for nothing. And then I went to finish the last of the railroad in a similar way that I did with their friends. A couple of black eyes later, and the job was finished. Pam was reprogrammed and sent to the Pridwin, and Ingram told me I needed one last piece to get Liberty Prime back in prime time, and that was the beryllium agitator, to put some wrinkles in his smooth little brain. The cripple decided she wanted to come along with me, and I almost ran into the same problem I did at Fort Strong with not being able to leave the vertebrate. But that wasn't the case, thankfully, and we landed at Mass Fusion. Ingram was a big help here, more than I thought, with taking out a lot of enemies. A synth with abandonment issues got stuck in the elevator with us, but we continued on our way down. I went in and stole the beryllium agitator when the big baddies locked us in and security tried to have their way with me. The big baddies being a legendary sentry bot, 2 Assaultrons, and a Protectron. My plan was simple, foolproof even. I would let Ingram deal with the sentry bot and the Assaultrons, but she immediately got cornered by said sentry bot and got absolutely wrecked, leaving me to deal with all of them. I tried waiting to see if she would ever recover, but the whole time I was fighting them, she never did. Luckily for me, the sentry bot froze in pure fear and didn't even attempt to fire back after it felt the devastating weight of my punches. The Assaultrons came next, and they weren't nearly as easy. They constantly charged up laser shots that could have easily killed me, and with their melee attacks, stunned the absolute shit out of me. The best chance was to attack with VATS and try to get in regular hits where I could. I took some more drugs and pressed my attack. I adopted the rope-a-dope method of fighting, got some hits in, and ran before the laser attacks had a chance of melting my smooth little brain into oblivion. Finally, after about 10 minutes of non-stop action, I killed the last Assaultron, and the cripple miraculously healed and wanted to continue on the mission. Dogmeat and Ingram then blocked me into the elevator temporarily. We finished off the remaining synths, and then I left Mass Fusion a hollow shell of what I once was. Then it was finally time for Liberty Prime to come alive once again, take that Liberty schlong and slap it right on the Institute's forehead and show him what prime time is all about. I went to a bench and waited until daytime, because I needed to see all this in its glory during the day. The walk there was boring, but it was kind of cool watching him lob nukes onto the foreheads of synths in the street. I watched him obliterate a behemoth like a plaything, and then finally blasted a hole into the Institute, where Maxon, Ingram, some other soldiers, and I all entered to deal the finishing blow. We fought our way through old robotics. A Brotherhood knight got stuck in the middle of an emote, and we continued the fight into the center of the Institute. I taught a scientist what the meaning of being thorough meant when they tried running away, and I went to confront Sean and activate the override from his terminal to access the reactor. I told him that his lobotomites and him are gross. Missed my first punch to fake him out while he was in the middle of his victim speech, and then landed a mean left hook that finished the job. Then, his final failsafe was activated, the dreaded hacking, and it was on an even worse looking screen. How they got any work done on these is beyond me. With the override code activated, we descended to the reactor where the final stand ensued. I had flashbacks from a guy with a missile launcher, planted the bomb, told the fake Sean to fuck off, and then left the Institute. The band all got back together again atop a building, and we watched as the Institute got blown to smithereens, and I beat Fallout 4 completely unarmed. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe so I know to make more challenge videos like this one. Thanks, and see you next time.